Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AAFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. 888-589-8840, number to call if you want to join the program. You know, we had this big dust-up on Fox News, Megyn Kelly going after Eric Erickson and Lou Dobbs over the role of women in the home. And what I suggested in connection with that conversation is that God has designed men and women to be different, equal in worth and value. This is what I said on Tom Hartman's program. Equal in worth, different in role. Equal in value, equal in significance, equal in spiritual stature. Husbands and wives are co-heirs of the gift of life. Not like in the Mormon church where if your husband doesn't call you out of the grave, you don't go to paradise. A woman stands before God with her own eternal destiny secure regardless of where her husband is at. That's not the case in the LDS church. And in Islam, a woman is nothing. A wife is nothing under Islam. She's chattel. Her husband is instructed to beat her if she doesn't behave. But in Christianity, this is one of the reasons why we say all cultures and all religions are not the same. That multiculturalism is just hogwash. It is bilge, and it's not just bilge, it's dangerous. If you believe that a religion that teaches that women are chattel who are to be beaten by their husbands, if you think that's the same as a religion that teaches men to honor their wives and to die for them, if that's what God calls them to do, if you think those are equally valid, man, you got some bad wiring in your head. So multiculturalism is totally bogus. But what I suggested is part of the difference between men and women is that God has designed men to be breadwinners in their homes. That's their role. That's their job. That's their function. It's part of their responsibility. And I believe it's part of their identity. Part of their masculine identity is connected to being a provider for their families. I'm not saying that a wife cannot contribute to household income. I'm not saying that. Every couple's got to make their own decision. We kept Debbie home full-time when our kids, before they graduated high school. She was a full-time homemaker. That was her job, to make a home for our children and for me. That was her job, make a home for her family. She cared for her mother-in-law, or her mother. My mother-in-law lived with us for the last 20 years of her life. That was Debbie's job, to provide a home for her mom, for her children, and for her husband. That took the best she had to offer, took all of her skill, all of her energy. She created that home as a manifestation of her personality. She put her stamp on it. That was her area for her innovation, her creativity, her artistry, her craftsmanship, her delicate touch, her artistic. That was the place where it all could be expressed. And she did that for all that time. Now she's working outside the home part-time. In part because she has discretionary time to put other places because our kids are now on their own. They're both married and forging their own path in life. So I'm not saying that it's just a one-size-fits-all. In our case, we made a decision that I was going to be the breadwinner, and we were going to live on whatever I brought in. Whatever I brought in, we were going to live on that. Didn't matter how little it was, we were going to find a way. If it meant beans and ramen every night, that's what we were going to do so she could be free to put her energies into her home. And you've probably seen those figures about what it would cost you to replace what a mother does for free, does for love. I mean, she is a child psychologist. She is a child educator. She is a chauffeur. She is a spiritual chaplain. It's like G.K. Chesterton said, if a woman works outside the home, and I'm not denigrating women working outside the home, please don't misunderstand me, but a woman who works outside the home is one thing to everybody. If she's a teacher, she's teaching math to everybody. Her role is to do one thing, and that is to teach kids how to add 2 + 1. That's her role. It's one thing, and she is that for everybody. But G.K. Chesterton says a mother is everything to somebody. I mean, well, you've got a woman who's teaching school. She's talking about arithmetic, while a mother at home is talking about the universe and talking about God and talking about issues of eternal significance. So that's Chesterton's objection to women working outside the home is it's too limiting. It is too narrow. It's too confining. It restrains the capacity that a woman has to put her imprint and her mark on the world. Now, anyway, 888-589-8840. I just want to touch on a couple of things before we go to the phones. This is from a piece in the New York Times. The title of the piece, Breadwinning Wives and Nervous Husbands. Talks about the fact that girls are outperforming boys in high school. More of them are going to college. More of them are getting degrees. More of them are moving into CEO positions. But what the writer says, this is Richard Thaler, there's an offset to this. It is contributing. The fact that women are making such progress, and now many of them out-earning men in their world, is contributing to a decline in the formation and stability of marriages. One reason for this decline may be that women with greater earning power have greater economic security, yet another possibility is that many men seem to be clinging to a social norm from the Mad Men days that the husband should be the primary earner in a family. Now, of course, their view is this is sort of social evolution. This is just a social norm. This has nothing to do with our as male and female, as men and women. It is all a social construct. And if a man is negatively impacted by this, it's because he's got a fragile ego, and he's just got to suck it up and be a man and learn to take it. And so their argument is just a social construct that men are to be the breadwinners. If they got a problem with it, then the problem is with them. It's not that some norm that's rooted in nature is being tampered with and being violated. So you go back to Mad Men. That's a television series on cable, set in the 60s, so you had fairly conventional roles there. The husband was the breadwinner, and the wife made a home for her family. That was all the couples, most of the couples in that show fit that pattern. And so what this Thaler is suggesting, New York Times, maybe this is the reason marriages are no longer as stable as they once were. And he blames this on men, fragile ego, rather than on this violation of the way in which we were created, as a violation of the laws of nature and nature's God. The evidence suggests that while men tend to applaud their spouses when they help to bring home the bacon, husbands aren't always as enthusiastic when women start bringing home the filet mignon. And it's especially troubling that these old-fashioned social norms, notice again, that's the template, nothing to do with design, nothing to do with the created order, nothing to do with the way in which man has made men and women different from each other. This is all part of an old-fashioned social norm, out-of-date, antiquated, Cro-Magnon, Neanderthal men about gender identity appear to be adversely affecting family formation and stability. So the New York Times is honest enough to admit, hey, this role reversal where the woman now has become the primary breadwinner in about 15% of the homes where children are present, that is having a negative effect on marriage. It's having an effect on the stability of marriages. It's having an effect on the longevity of marriages, and it's having an effect on the family and therefore on the children. And I submit to you that this has nothing to do with some kind of need for men to evolve. What this is about is a need for our society to recognize the differences between men and women and once again honor the differences between them and honor the roles that God has designed them to play in marriage. It'll be good for the wives. You know, one of the things it says in here that wives are not happy with this. The wives that out-earn their husbands, they are not happier than women whose husbands provide for the family. Let's see if I can find that statement in here. Where is that statement about? Here we go. What if the woman stays in the labor force and does earn more than her spouse? How does this affect the marriage? The findings here are striking. In such couples, surveys show both wife and husband generally report being less happy about the marriage. So not even the woman who is fulfilling this cultural dream of being a producer out there in the world, as limiting and confining and narrow as that is, according to G.K. Chesterton, out-earning her husband, making her place in the world, crashing through the glass ceiling, she's not happy either. Nobody's happy. New York Times acknowledging that nobody's happy. So having the husband be the primary breadwinner, woman focusing her energies on the home, everybody's happier. The husband's happier. The wife is happier. The marriage is more stable. The marriage is sounder. The marriage will last longer. And the children are all happier. What is not to like? Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Peggy in Newport Richey, Florida. Peggy, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
Yeah, I totally concur with everything you say, and probably most of the listeners you have, 80% of them anyway. Every once in a while I hear someone call in that has a disagreement with you, but I think most everybody that watches your show probably agrees with it. People don't watch shows they don't, they don't like. They can't stand to sit there and hear someone
turn it off
like
after
you.
a while.
Yeah. I have a question for you, though. In the Vietnam War, speaking of people and soldiers in the Army, and I feel like maybe we have a shortage of real men stepping up to the plate to protect the country. But didn't they go in some of the prisons at the time? The people, we were paying so much money, and they're overcrowded, and there's probably plenty of men in there that say, man, I wish I hadn't have done that and could turn my life around, and that I can't do it because I got a felony. I can't fight for my country. And didn't they do that in the Vietnam War because they needed men in the drafting? The draft was down so low that they went and took people who had just little offenses, nothing where they were out killing people and stuff. And I'll hang up and listen to you.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not familiar with that, Peggy. That happened in the Vietnam War. It may have happened. I mean, there's a lot I don't know, and that may well have been a part of the case. But you talk about the absence of real men. I think that's a more profound issue here. And, the military used to be a place that appealed to masculinity. Real men went into the military. It was a place to be strong. You needed men who were virile, who were young, who were agile, who had stamina, who were strong, who had a strong sense of masculinity, the proper kind of assertiveness and aggression you need to protect a nation's security. And now we're bleeding all that out of our military. We have all these homosexuals coming in there now. It's become homosexual friendly. You exercise and act out of proper masculinity in the military these days, you're liable to wind up charged with discrimination, bigotry, and thrown into the brig as a result. So it's emasculating and it's feminizing the American military, and so we may wind up being back in the same shape the military was in the days of Vietnam, if our last caller was correct, looking somewhere for real men who can defend this country. Focal Point AFR Talk, back in 2.